I'm pushing this now. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Spark Outbound Live. I'm Jonathan Sellers, CEO and founder of Spark Outbound. And today we're going to be talking about how our team at Spark Outbound, judges and analyzes the success of outreach campaigns that we're doing for ourselves or for our clients. Um, Joining me today is Whitney Pressley. She works with our clients and has essentially has an integral part in our outreach program in general. And so I thought we would take some time to just go through. Basically, we have like a three tiered review process, and just really kind of uncover like what we're looking for. How do we know if something is being successful, if it has potential to be successful, or if there's something wrong and we need to make an adjustment quickly? And then also kind of how we uh, really decide like long term the viability of a campaign or what a client's or our messages are, or if we need to make some strategic changes as well. So some of it is technical. Could there be a technical issue, or is everything working properly? And then there's the obvious part about the strategy and the messaging and what we're saying. Um, so we are coming to you today. Whitney and I are both in Tampa right now in our Tampa offices. And it is raining very hard right now in Tampa, so the weather's a little strange. So Whitney's office is, it looks like you're you're sitting in the rain clouds, Whitney, right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, so let's jump in. Before we get started, so if you are interested in digital marketing, lead generation, outreach, digital ads, SEO, any of these topics, like we go live roughly once a week and talk about something related to one of those topics. If you're interested in that and want to know when we do so, please subscribe to our channel. And then, click the notification bell. You'll get the notifications pushed to you when we do go live or when we post new content. And we would love to join you and answer any questions or hear any comments that you have about what we're talking about. We hope to provide value with these lives. So, jumping in on today's topic about how we analyze outreach campaigns, I wanted to um, first present the three tiers of how we assess campaigns. And then I want to jump in and get some feedback from Whitney on the first tier specifically. So the three tiers we're looking at is when we launch a campaign, tier one is just the stats, the data, right? And what we're looking for first and foremost is something technically wrong. But then there's also other things that would be indicators that maybe there could be other things wrong, like strategy or messaging as well. So that's the first part is we're looking at quantitative data and we're looking at just making sure that the stats make sense based off the metrics that we're looking for. Number two is going to be more qualitative, and so that's where like our coordinators are going into the campaign and they're reading what's happening, so they're seeing people that respond to messages and they're seeing what they're saying, and so we use that to figure out, are we strategically on the right track? And then the third layer is real world data, and so That is also qualitative data, but that comes from our client or from us about what happened in the real world with the lead. So we try not to just rely on the fact of sheer just data, like here is a lead, period, that's the end. We want to know, are those leads resulting in positive beyond being a lead? So are the clients, salespeople getting on calls with them successfully, and then are those calls or whatever the process is resulting in positive movement from the leads? And then if we can identify trends, that also can be used to back up and make adjustments. So that's it, three tiers: quantitative data, stats, qualitative analysis of sentiment and things like that, and then real world data. So Whitney, let's jump into the first step and kind of talk about some specifics around what those things we're looking for are and why we're looking at them. So if you want to just maybe jump in and start talking about some of those.
Yeah, so initially we look at if you're looking at like an email campaign, we look at open rates. So how many people out of all the people are reached, how many people opened your message, how many another metric is, deliverability. So how many people in the first place got your message, and then how many people opened it, um, and then click rates is another metric that we look at. If there's any type of link or content, or maybe like a specific landing page or something that the client wants to direct people to, then they might include that, in the body or the copy of their campaign. So they might want to look at how many people actually clicked that, how many viewed, and then uh, response rates. So also including LinkedIn, things like connection rates. Um, it depends on, I think, the goal of the campaign. So there's, all different types of campaigns, and they have different types of goals. So basically looking at metrics, did we achieve, those goals, or how are those rates going?
Yeah, exactly. I think that is those are kind of the core foundational pieces that you would consider when you're looking at outreach. So and logically, let's talk about some of those. So like Whitney said, like deliverability and open rates. Um, if you send out, you know, so I'll just say a random baseline. So if you're expecting a 20% minimum open rate, right? 20 to 40%, and then you send out the campaign and the campaign receives like a 5% open rate, that would indicate that there's a problem with deliverability. So that might be something in the technical setup, like so a quick check is the domain or the email address blacklisted or something like that. Um, are the email deliverability hosting settings, have they been applied, like SPF, DMARC, things like that? Has the whatever the platform you're sending the email from, does it have authority to send as that domain? Things like that. So that's where I say those would be. Also, in the same sense, on LinkedIn, if we're doing connector campaign, we're trying to build connections. If the connection rate is very low, like far lower than normal, like it's the immediate thing some people may go to is that it just doesn't work or the strategy's wrong. But the immediate thing I go to is there a is something technically not set up correctly, and that it could be causing this issue. And then beyond that, I think from that same set of data, taking to the next level, the response rate piece, um, that's going to indicate to me, that's where we start getting into like the strategy analysis and saying, like, is this strategy right or wrong? Because if we have, for instance, a very high open rate of 40, 50%, 60% open rate, and a 0% response rate, typically the message is wrong or the audience is wrong. The person's receiving this and they're like, what's this person talking about? This has nothing to do with me. Or what just literally what you're saying is just not of interest to your to the audience. So yeah, so that's really step one, and we're looking at those every day. So if we're seeing a campaign and something isn't adding up to what we view when we look at all of our campaigns, and we know kind of what across all industries, all targets, what the baseline metrics are. If we're not falling in line with that, then our team is raising that up. Like, hey, here's an issue. This doesn't make sense. These numbers aren't making sense, and we want to jump into it and see if we can figure out is there a problem we can correct, or is it now that we need to look at a different audience or a different messaging strategy. So going to step two, and this is something I think is really important, like working with a company like Spark Outbound and having a team that's working on your outreach. This is the benefit of having a team, I think, versus doing it yourself. Is so say everything's working perfectly from a technical perspective, and then you're trying to figure out, am I reaching the right audiences, or is my message resonating? So to do that, as you're getting all these responses back, you have to, first of all, be dealing with the responses, but secondly, you have to like keep it in a bigger picture view of it, and identify, like, are there trends in the responses that are negative or positive? So Whitney, why don't you talk a little bit about how our coordinators, um, what are they doing to help with that, and then what do we do once we identify a negative trend, for instance?
Yeah. So our coordinators, like Jonathan, you mentioned, they're going in there every day. That's actually multiple times a day. And reviewing all of the clients' inboxes. So again, different types of email campaigns, LinkedIn campaigns, um, different types of campaigns. They're going in, they know the goal of the campaign, so they're able to go and look at the responses. And since they could either be managing the responses for the client, or sometimes the client might prefer to do their own, but either way, they're going in and evaluating each response individually. So is this basically a message that we need to pass on to the client? Is it a positive, a neutral, or negative type of response? And then what type of response is it? Like, based on different campaign goals. So we do a lot of tagging, a lot of like categorization for each response. We have developed a whole system to kind of keep track of these, and so that we have uniform, understanding through our team internally that this type of message gets this action or whatever it is. So we have processes, in place for that, but it's everything is to, of course, achieve the client's goal. So another thing they're doing is looking at the types of responses. So in the sense of, if someone, maybe our goal is to sell a product for the client, maybe that's the client's message, and that's what we think the copy says, but maybe they're noticing that people are saying, asking a lot about employment, something like that. So then that says to the coordinators, all right, there's maybe we need some more clarity in our messaging, and they'll relay that to the team, who then goes to action and for the client, and the account manager gets the client's feedback and shares it with the team, so that we can all be on the same page again, to try and uh, I think I keep going back to that because that's way, our ultimate way of measuring success of outreach campaigns is, is it meeting or achieving the client's ultimate goal.
Yeah, I think that is 100% true. That is what we always keep in mind when we're making decisions, or it's front of mind in making a strategy change or something like that. But I think that's a good example you gave. We've had a couple times where that has happened, more than a couple times, where a, a message, between us and collaborating with the client will come up with a way of presenting their objective, that we think is perfect, right? And you always want to try to create the best version, but then occasionally the particular audience that we're communicating with does not take the message the way that it's presented. So the way we think it's very clear what we're trying to communicate, but we keep getting the same responses, but it's not what we're trying to say. So, like Whitney gave the example of, we're trying to get people to buy something, and they think we're trying to give them a job opportunity, which happens more often than you might expect. But like maybe a different example is where you're trying to send somebody to a piece of content. So you want somebody to go, the only thing you're asking them to do is go to a piece of content, and they're responding with, I'm not interested in buying something. Um, so there's been occasions where we looked back and realized that the thing we were introducing the message with could be viewed that we were trying to sell something, right? And then we had placed the piece of content, like go check out this content, at the end of the message following that intro section. And so there's times where we were able to identify that we need to just reorder the information that we were presenting, and it completely changed the results of the campaign because the person got the point now, because that's the first thing they're reading. So simple changes like that, like it's very simple to just talk about, but when you're looking at it, in the course of tens and then hundreds and then eventually thousands of interactions, it's definitely easier when you have a team who is thinking in this way all the time, and we can typically identify those issues very quickly if that type of thing specifically happens. So something we've always done, with Spark Outbound, and this is whether we're talking digital advertising, lead generation, or outreach. We always work with our clients and develop what we call a lead tracker document. Also, some of the clients also have CRMs, obviously, and we push their leads into the CRMs. But at the very least, we want to look at our lead generation in a granular level. So the second, what we just talked about, is we're looking at it as it happens from our perspective in a granular level, but we find it's much more valuable in the overall scope of a project, and the chances of really truly being successful for a client if we are able to collaborate with the client directly. And then what that really means is we need to know what happens with the leads. So um, we need to know, if we got you 10 leads this week, how many of those people did you get on the call with? Who of those 10 people specifically did you get on the call with, Tom or Susie? How did the calls go? Are people saying that you're out of their budget? Are people saying that they thought you were looking to hire somebody, right? So it's like we need that context to know a second layer of, is the messaging correct? And also probably maybe even more importantly, is the audience correct? So if you had 6 calls and 5 of the people didn't have the budget for whatever it is that you offer, then we probably need to make some adjustments to our audience. So maybe we need to target larger companies. Maybe we need to look for people who have been in business for longer, things like that. There's a variety of different ways we can go about that, depending on which data sources we're using, if we're using LinkedIn or if we're using data partners, to find information. But yeah, so why don't we talk about, the process we go through with our lead trackers, and then our daily emails, and how do we, from your perspective, Whitney, because Whitney is the person who is the first point of contact for a lot of our clients. So why don't you kind of give an overview of how this process, the back and forth, works?
Sure. So basically, the from the coordinator's work in managing the responses, they have various systems of marking or designating each message. So from from that work, it determines of course, which leads go into the client's lead tracker. So we push those leads to the client, um, and then the account manager, and that's uh, I'm acting as that person, but the account manager goes to the client and basically has periodic calls. I'm the usually the direct contact for most of the clients. So um, if they have questions, they can call me. So I get feedback all day from the clients via emails, via scheduled calls, texts, all of these communication. So all of that feedback we track, and then basically that feedback from the client is shared with, again, the team. So during the update calls, or the periodic calls, again, one of the most important things that we get from the client as far as feedback is what happened on those calls. So as you were saying, Jonathan, what's the feedback from the calls? What are people saying? If a lot of people are saying no, why? If a lot of people are saying yes, why? Just basically qualitative feedback from those that we would never know. That's really valuable to us because, again, we can go back to the team and say, hey, this is the feedback. Okay, well, let's, take action by uh, tweaking the copy, the messaging, the audience, the set, the volume, there's, all kinds of different things and adjustments that you can make. And so basically we're trying to always, make improve the campaigns, so that we can improve the results, those real world results for the client.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what it's all about. It's all about getting clients results, getting clients opportunities to, speak with people who need their products or services. And yeah, so if we're not doing that, we're not providing the value that we potentially have for our clients. So uh, a lot of I've worked in a lot of other situations in the past, and a lot of agencies I know focus on the first step. So the quantitative data, like we see that this many people were a lead for you this month or whatever, this week, and that's really it. And so then when a lot of times they'll get this feedback, and the client says they're not moving forward, and they don't understand why, and they're like, we keep getting you more and more leads, and the client keeps saying, well, they're just not good. But it's like this disconnect. It's the whole marketing sales disconnect, but that also plays out in the agency and brand relationship. I think where it's not together, like where there's like more leads doesn't always mean more results. And so I think for us, we understand that very clearly, and we have just come to find that just by building these processes in, it it's better for everyone. It's better for the client. It's better for us. We're not confused and caught off guard. We also much more clearly understand how these type of things can happen before we even engage with a client, because we know where these disconnects um, yeah, all these people are raising their hand and they're interested, and then the client is saying, yeah, but none of these people are my, ideal prospect. So we hope that our three tiers are designed and put into place where we can collaborate and build a good relationship with our clients and then ultimately meet their goal. So I think just to wrap up today, I just want to reiterate what those three tiers are. So basically, we have tier one, which is quantitative data. That's the stats. We're looking and making sure that everything is operating correctly, making sure that the campaign is running as expected and that there's no technical issues. And then at the very highest level, do we have like a big miss, right? So did we miss the audience? Did we completely miss the messaging strategy? And then we can act appropriately if that is raised. So that's tier one. Tier two is our qualitative analysis of the campaign in real life or in real time. So meaning our coordinators are looking at the feedback. So as people respond to our outreach messages, the coordinators are looking at the sentiment of what they're responding, seeing if there's patterns where the message could be unclear, or where if everybody's saying they're not interested, maybe it's the audience again, right? Or maybe it's the offer, one of the two. And then the third tier is our real world qualitative analysis that comes from our clients. So that's where we work with our client to find out, okay, so we've produced these leads. Here's their name, Tom, John, Susie, Kathy, and client, how did your interactions with those four people go? And then we take all three pieces of that feedback continually, it never ends, and we're making adjustments because even if a campaign is working great today, things may change over the coming months. And we need to be able to pick up on that trend that things are changing so we can go ahead and be proactive and make an adjustment. So yeah, I think that's really it for today. It's a pretty short live. Whitney, did you have any closing statements? Anything you'd like to leave the world with today?
Not today.
Okay. Yeah, it's a pretty straightforward topic, and this is what we do every day. This is I had a conversation with somebody today actually. So if you're watching, um, I basically they were saying that they've been doing outreach themselves, and we're assessing like basically it's a lot of work. Like it's a lot of work to keep it going and keep it and push it to get results and things like that. And yeah, that's exactly it. Like it is a lot of work. It's a lot of effort, and to really have it's one thing to get a lead or get a couple leads, but to build like this a program over a long period of time, it's going to require continual refinement, and that you know takes a team. So anyway, so we'll wrap it up for today. Thanks for watching. Um, Please, like I said, subscribe to our channel, and you'll be able to see our notifications. Or if you click the notification bell, you'll be able to get notified when we go live or post new content. Otherwise, I hope to see you next week. We'll be having a brand new topic next week and digging into some more digital marketing and lead gen content. Otherwise, have a great end of your week and look forward to seeing you soon.